Hi, I'm Joe Jacobson at Wycombe Wanderers, and you're listening to Wycombe Sound.
The Wycombe Wanderers Show.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. Plenty to bring you this week. Well, as we have every week, in fact. We'll be catching up with Phil in a few moments' time with a double pre-match... no, that's not right. That's not what it's called. A double... What's it called? Thank you. One of those. Looking back at the game against Derby County and Accrington Stanley as well. We'll also look ahead, of course, to the visit of Bolton Wanderers this coming Saturday as well. Set to be a great game at Adams Park. We'll reflect on the sad news of the passing of former Wycombe Wanderers manager and chairman Brian Lee. We'll hear from two people who've played under him. That's John Maskell and Bob Davies. We'll hear from Alfie Mawson as well, who, in other sad news, has had to announce his retirement from football this week. We'll hear from Gemma Dunn, who's a new signing for Wycombe Wanderers women. We'll catch up with half-term heroes Jack Grimmer and Gareth McCleary, who have been at the Eden Shopping Centre signing, well, all sorts of things, to be honest, this afternoon. And we'll hear from the manager as well, Gareth Ainsworth, who'll be rounding up basically all of that. That's all to come in the next hour for you, but first I'm very pleased to say Phil has spared time to chat to us on our match debrief this week.
Yeah, let's start with the Derby game, because a huge game on many different levels really, because there's obviously the narrative of their fans not being overly enamoured with our club and our chairman. That added a bit of spice to it. The away end was incredibly loud until Wycombe scored. I thought Sam Vokes' goal really sort of shut them up a bit, but then Wycombe, I think Lewis Wing and Josh Scowen, brilliant in midfield. And I have to give credit to Stephen in the recruitment department up at the training ground, because he told me a great stat this week. We average 0.5 of a point more per game when Lewis Wing and Josh Scowen play together. And you can really see why against Derby County, because they ran that midfield. And this is a Derby County who hadn't lost since October the 21st in the league, and that was an away defeat away at Ipswich 1-0. So this was no mean feat, but I thought Wycombe was superb. We saw the real character of the team as well, because at 1-0 they missed a gilt-edged chance for Jason McCarthy, and then Derby County equalised, and you could maybe sense the momentum swinging. And then you kind of think, oh, I've read this script before. It's going to be a Derby County going on to get a winner. But Wycombe dug in and dominated, I think, the next 10, 15 minutes, and deservedly went back in the lead. And then the third goal, which proved to be incredibly important, was wonderful to see Lewis Wing get his second of the game. Great assist and great story for TJ DeBar as well. But I thought it really showed the character of the team, and a big 3 points in terms of the top six, because everyone keeps winning up there. So it's really important that they kept that momentum going.
And really nice as well to kind of take that into Tuesday night as well, because I'm sure anyone will tell you, and probably including yourself, that Accrington's a tricky place to go on a Tuesday night in February. I
mean, I've been to Accrington on a Saturday game and got out of the car once to see the game get called off at 1 o'clock, and then got back on the motorway again. It was a terrible journey up there. We arrived 8 minutes before kick-off. Fortunately, the team were up there the day before, so it was all right. But yeah, the team... Very different performance to Saturday, and it had to be. The pitch was incredibly lively. Accrington are down the bottom and they're scrapping, and they're really putting a shift in for their manager, but I think maybe lacking a bit of quality up top. But Wycombe had to show a different side to their game to get the 3 points, and you know, we won't remember the game much at the end of the season perhaps, but that 3 points could be absolutely vital. Josh Scowen, wow, what a goal that was as well, to get things kicked off. But Chem Campbell in the build-up as well in his first start for Wycombe Wanderers was an integral part of the move that led to the goal. Jordan Willis, his first start for Wycombe Wanderers after his brief appearance off the bench on Saturday. How important will he be now, especially with the news that Alfie Mawson's retired? So loads and loads of positives on top of the result as well on Tuesday night, in what is a huge 8 days for the club, because Derby, Accrington, Bolton... Gareth will tell you that those results won't define the season, but the fans were looking at that thinking that's going to be a huge indication about where we're going to be. We've got 6 points out of the 9 so far with 3 to go. I think the win on Tuesday takes the pressure off a little bit on that Bolton game, and maybe means we can really have a proper go at them. But they're in fine form. But yeah, Josh Goins is also in great form. His goal was fantastic, and he doesn't do a lot of interviews, but I always do like chatting to Josh, and it was a pleasure to speak to him after the game.
It just fell to me nicely on the edge of the box, and I managed to connect with it sweetly, and lucky enough for me, and it went in. So.
A crisp half volley, I think I called it. Is that right?
Yeah, it was. As I say, I caught it nicely, but it was the way it came out to me. It was just perfect, and I was eyeing it up from a while. But yeah, caught it sweetly in.
Anyone you'd like to dedicate that goal to today?
You know, my good friend Alfie. You know, it's a tough time for him at the minute, but he's got good people around him, and I know he'll do well for whatever he does after football.
What's been the reaction of the squad to that news? Obviously, it's been coming for a few days now. What's been the reaction?
Obviously, as a team, we're devastated to lose him in terms of on the pitch. But like I say, he's got good people around him, and all the boys are wishing him well for whatever he decides to do after. He's got a good head on him, so I'm sure he'll be successful in life after football. Momentum
seems to be going Wycombe's way now. This is a really nice little run we're building.
Yeah, the boys are confident. As long as we can keep getting results and keep pushing forward, confidence is going to grow and hopefully we're in the right place coming into the season.
And the big games just don't stop, because we've got Bolton at Adams Park on Saturday, and that's going to be an absolute cracker as well.
Yeah, another big game, but at home we back ourselves against anyone, like we showed against Derby. So like I say, we're in a confident place, and at the minute we're getting stronger and stronger.
And your own personal form as well, Josh. I mean, we had Danny Sender with us on comms on Saturday, waxing lyrical about your performances, and the fans are as well. Where'd you get the energy from still? I get exhausted watching you.
Oh, no, I don't know. I just, once I cross that white line, there's a different man out there. But, I'm enjoying my football, and I say my form at the minute I believe is good, and, the team helped me. And, like I say, we're in a good place, and we'll carry on.
I mentioned that it's tight up the top, but the experience of last season, cracking into the top six on the final day, is that going to stand Wycombe in good stead?
I say we've got that experience from last year, and we can use that this year, and like I say, build. And with the squad we've got the players that are capable of getting into the playoffs, and I think we've showed that the last few weeks.
You're on record as saying it's normally just one goal a season from you, but you've doubled that now. Are you going to set a higher target now?
Who knows now? Let's see what happens.
Well, maybe one Saturday will be good.
Yeah, it would be lovely, yeah, but like I say, as long as we keep winning, that's what matters.
And something that really stands out as well is that, another clean sheet, and Wycombe really not conceding and scoring plenty at the moment as well.
Yeah, I mean, what would have been lovely, just for the stats nerds like me, had we got another goal at Accrington to win 3-0, then that would have been 3 away games consecutively that we'd won 3-0. That would have been lovely, but 2-0 was good enough for us, really. But the shutouts are what's really important, because obviously if you then nick a goal against a run of play and don't play well, you still win the game. I think defensively it's been really challenging this season because of injury. We have a different shape, a different set of personnel back there most games, but they all know the system. They all stand up and get counted. I think Jordan Willis looked good. He came off with cramp just before the hour, which is to be understood. He hasn't played a game for 2 years, but hopefully he can get his match fitness up quickly. He could be integral. Big Chris Farino came off the bench and was brilliant. I think there were 2 headers before we got the second goal, as Accrington were piling on the pressure, that were absolutely fantastic. If he can now stay fit between now and the end of the season, that would be quite handy as well. But Big Max in goal as well, made a couple of good saves when called upon. And it's a solidity that's what we're building this all on, really. We've got a great attacking players going forward. I know the opposition fans, Derby fans, made a big thing about us being one-dimensional, time-wasting long ball merchants. But, if you're listening to this, away fans, think that, because there's more to Wycombe than that, as you'll find out on Saturday, hopefully.
And really interesting when you spoke to the manager after the game as well, the adaptability of the team, how he changed things in the second half.
Yeah, great. The double sub up top, McCleary and TJ DeBar. I think I described it on the night as almost changing the speed of a record player, because Accrington, it was all going towards the Wycombe goal, but then the double sub just completely changed the tempo of the game, and it meant that Wycombe could then get a bit more control, and it was a double sub that led to the second goal. Another assist for TJ DeBar, and a brilliant finish by Gareth McCleary as well. 35 years old. I didn't expect him to start against Accrington on a Tuesday night, but he had to do the journey, came off the bench, sealed the points, and I'm sure he'll play a big part against Bolton Wanderers.
And Tuesday, obviously, when we heard the news about Alfie, obviously really devastating for him and fans as well, who really appreciate his contribution in both spells at the club. Yeah,
29 years old, it's heartbreaking. And, let's be honest, he wouldn't be playing for Wycombe Wanderers if it wasn't for his knee. But we got 21 games out of him in the summer, and his form was electric. And it really shows you that if you look, when the January transfer window was open, if you look on the Wycombe Wanderers forum and on Twitter, a lot of our fans were convinced he wasn't playing because he was going to move to a championship club. Such was his form. Sadly, did they know that the actual truth was that he was starting to feel his knee, and then that led to a precautionary break, and then it led to a scan, which has then delivered him at this decision he's had to make. But, he was in a huge amount of pain after games. And but what I love about this story is that in the summer, he'd fallen out of love with the game. He didn't like football anymore, to the point where he thought he was going to have to retire then. And he said had he done so at that point, he probably wouldn't have been able to watch football again. This spell he's had at Wycombe Wanderers means that he loves the game again. He's a Wycombe Wanderers fan, which is wonderful now. The whole family is. And who knows what the future holds for him, but I know what it does hold for him in terms of he'll be a Wycombe fan. He'll be regularly at games, and he's not going to disappear off the training ground now. He said he's going to stick around, and he's passionate about imparting his knowledge onto our younger defenders as well. Great guy. There's a great interview with Alfie on this week's pre-match drills, and that'll be up on Wanderers TV as well. And it's a bit of a tearjerker, Colin.
Oh, after Valentine's Day as well.
Heartbreak on Valentine's Day. I mean, I know.
But hopefully some better news to come on Saturday, because obviously the last home game was against Derby, and there's a brilliant atmosphere there, and I'm sure another opportunity for fans to come along and witness a great occasion on Saturday. Yeah,
this will be another big game in terms of attendance. Bolton travel really, really well, and they're in fabulous form, so their fans will be in good voice. The slight difference is that Bolton fans like us, so that's quite nice. That goes back to when they nearly went out of business, and opening day of the season, they had a hugely warm welcome from Wycombe fans, and we'll always remember that, I've been told. So slightly less edge on this one, but nonetheless, Wycombe fans need to turn up for this and get behind the boys, because this is going to be an immensely tough game. And I think with the last two results, it takes the pressure off this one. This isn't a make or break the season sort of game, but 3 points would be incredibly handy.
And especially with the way they've been free-scoring in the last couple of matches as well.
Yeah, 2 5-0s on the bounce. They've won 5 consecutive games. They've got goals coming in from all over the area. They won 5-0 against MK Dons on Tuesday, and no strikers scored in that game. So it shows you there's danger throughout the pitch. Wycombe will have to be on their mettle on Saturday.
But they're facing a team who've won their last 4 as well.
Yeah, this is great, isn't it? This stage of the season, 2 form teams coming together. Even if you're listening to this and not a Wycombe Wanderers fan, if you're a neutral, come down, because this game will be fascinating.
No, definitely. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, Colin.
Always great to have Phil on the show. Of course, you can hear in full those interviews with Josh Scowen, and also Gareth speaking post-match at the Derby and Accrington games as well. And as Phil mentioned, you'll also hear in full his chat with Alfie Mawson, his a brief taster of what you can expect.
I was nearly in this situation in the summer, so I've started to get things going in my mind to sort of, ease it. But I said to the gaffer and Beth and all close to me that if I had retired in the summer, being the last few years I had, as successful as they were on paper, I'd fallen out of love with the game. So I said to the gaffer that I probably wouldn't have even bothered watching football again. I was that out, distant from it. I was just seeing it as something that I've loved for so long that I unfortunately, like I said, fallen out of love with. But coming back here has been bittersweet, because again, I can safely say that I've fallen back in love with it, which is great, because it reminds me of when I first came here and being a kid and just enjoying what I'm doing. But obviously, with a bitter taste that now I've got to finish. But I'd much rather have finished in this mindset than the one that I was in the summer. I've done what I wanted to do. I wanted to get some more games on my belt. I wanted to finish playing and to go out the way I did. In the win against a side that were tipped for automatic promotion. Really, really happy.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
Still to come on this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we'll hear from one of the new signings from Wycombe Wanderers Women, and we'll hear from the manager in full, looking ahead to the visit of Bolton Wanderers on Saturday, and previewing what's been a week of mixed emotions for the club. 2 wins, but also, as we heard, Alfie Mawson retiring from football, and also on Sunday it was announced that former manager and chairman Brian Lee had passed away not too long after his wife as well, and Gareth paid tribute shortly afterwards.
Texted me on the Sunday and told me that his dad had passed away, and one of the last things he did was a fist bump to celebrate the 3-2 win against Derby, which shows how much Wycombe meant to Brian. But we want to tell the family how much Brian meant to Wycombe. Without him, this club would not be anywhere near it is today. People like him are lost in a lot of clubs, but this club fortunately take their history really seriously, and I'm sure that his name will live forever here, and I want to try and pay the respects due to such a great man.
Indeed, and also you can hear our interview with Brian from the first series of this show on the website at wycombesound.org.uk. I've been speaking to John Maskell, who of course made over 700 appearances for the club, many of those under Brian Lee, and here are his memories.
Brian was a great friend of mine. He wasn't only an excellent manager, but as I say, over the years he became a great friend of mine, and right up until the last few days I kept in touch with him, either through a phone call or he belonged to the, as you know, the Ex-Players Association, and he was on the committee there with myself. I remember when Brian was first appointed in the late 60s, and as a young player thinking he was completely different to all the previous managers I'd actually played under. He was certainly his own man, because he came to the club and stamped his authority on the club almost immediately. He took some decisions that weren't accepted at the time, but he was proven right at the end. He disbanded the reserves, for instance. He got rid of the team selection committee and started releasing the current players and bringing in his own players. In fact, I think I'm right in saying that after a couple of seasons, Tony Horseman and myself were probably the only players remaining from the original team when he was appointed. I quickly realised how good his management skills were, and he changed the club from an average setup to what became probably the best non-league club in the country. So, that was my first recollection of him, really. And when you look at the football club as it is today, they've done brilliantly, but I suspect that when you go back to the late 60s, early 70s, if it hadn't been for Brian Lee, I often wonder where they would have been at this moment in time.
How would you describe his management style?
He didn't get emotional. You get some managers who they've all got their own idiosyncrasies, but Brian was always, you could always rely on him to be sensible. He certainly gave you confidence because he was a confident man himself. And when I look back, even the games that were the most important games, he never lost his temper. He always talked in a logical way, and he always analysed the game properly, in my opinion, anyway. And the only time I can remember he did have a little bit, he went off piece once, and that was when we played Cardiff City away in the FA Cup. And it was very out of character for Brian, but it was a terrible, terrible weekend, freezing cold, and most of the games were off. But we were playing at Ninian Park, and we drove down there, and we got to about half a mile from the ground, and we were early, and Brian said, right, stop the coach. He said, we're all going to get off now, and we'll walk the rest of the way to the ground. And we couldn't believe it, because most of us only had our blazers anyway, and ties and what have you, shirt and ties. And he did that, and it was very out of character. But in actual fact, it was we were all moaning and groaning, but in actual fact, he was right, because we were sat on the coach for quite a long time, and we started off the game unbelievable, and we should have been 2 or 3 up in the first half hour, but we missed a few chances, and then we went on to lose 1-0. But I'll never forget that. It was something that he did just as a one-off, and I always think, when I look back, he was probably right to do it.
No, it's brilliant to hear those sort of stories, and I guess it must be really hard to sum up, that the impact he had on both the team but also the club as well.
Yeah, he had a big impact, as I say. I don't think they'd be where they are today if it wasn't for Brian. He was very honest. One of the advantages of playing for Wycombe in those days was that Brian knew everybody in football, and everybody knew Brian. I mean, it was unbelievable, the contacts and the people that knew him. And we were fortunate because, unlike other players of my era, in other teams, in other good teams, even in professional teams, they never got to play against players that we got to play against. Because he was director of Bisham Abbey, I remember playing against Wales before they played Scotland in the World Cup. They were staying at Bisham Abbey, and we played them in a full game. People like John Toshak and Gil Rees, all the internationals, Mike England, and it was only through Brian really, because he had so many contacts. And then another time when when the whole country was almost shut down because of the weather, we played, Brian Clough was staying with Derby County at Bisham Abbey, and we played them in Lokes Park behind closed doors in a friendly, and that was some experience as well. The other thing I should say as well is when we went, we used to go on tour once a year, either to Italy, Greece, places like that, and wherever we went, we were treated really like a big side, because Brian invariably knew the people who were in charge. I'll give you an example. We played in Greece. We played at AEK against the Greek under-23 internationals, and that was because Brian knew Billy Bingham, who was the current Greek international football manager. And Billy Bingham met us at the hotel, and you know, it was quite an experience, and it was all through the likes of Brian and his contacts.
And how would you describe Brian's sort of philosophy of football, the way he got you to play?
It was simple, actually. He wasn't one of these that complicated things. He believed that if you tried to play the ball forward, you were always behind the ball to defend if you give it away. And one of the things he hated, and it's amazing, and you'll probably laugh at this because watching football as you do, you'll know what I'm talking about. He hated anybody playing it square. He said if you play it square and it gets cut out, you've knocked out 4 or 5 of your team. And he did. If you played it square, any of the players, he used to have a little dig at you at half time. And but nowadays, of course, they do it all the time. They play it square and back. But Brian always believed in attacking football, playing the ball forward, and his main thing really was get the ball forward and win the second ball. And we always had a reasonable centre forward anyway, and he believed in getting the ball forward, as I say, very early. A bit like Wycombe today, actually. Gareth plays the same sort of way. He gets the ball forward very early, whereas other teams, you know, they like to build up and take their time and play it back to the goalkeeper. But no, Brian was he liked to play simple but attacking football.
So how would you say Brian should best be remembered?
Well, I think he should be remembered as he's actually a legend at Wycombe, isn't he? I mean, he not only managed the club, he was chairman, he was involved in appointing other chairmen, he was involved in appointing managers, good managers who did well for Wycombe. So I think he should be remembered for all those things, and I would like to see the club do something very special for him.
No, I'm sure that'd be fantastic. And I guess one of the reasons why you played for the club as long as you did.
That's right. Yeah, I was very lucky because when he came to the club, I was already there anyway, and we were just an average team really. And when he came to the club, I did have my doubts, but as I say, he changed it completely. He got rid of most of the players that I played with, apart from Tony Horseman, and brought other players in. But I look back and think, well, you know, he was actually correct. If the club was going to progress as we all wanted, then he needed to change things, and that's what he did.
And how will you remember Brian as a person, not just as a manager?
Well, I think I can only speak for myself, obviously, but I got to know Brian because I probably got to know him better than most players because I suffered from travel sickness. And when we went on away trips, I'd invariably sit up the front of the coach, and Brian would come and sit next to me, and we'd have long chats leading up to the games. I personally think he certainly didn't change my life, but certainly affected me in different areas. I used to talk to him about everything from football to politics to life in general, and I really did look up to Brian. I thought he was an excellent guy to look after young players like myself, and I had a lot of time for Brian. I think he was, as I say, to me, he was Mr. Wycombe, actually.
Really nice to hear the tribute there from John Maskell, and someone else who joined the club when Brian was coming to the end of his managerial time was Bob Davies.
The reason I ended up at Wycombe was Howard Kennedy. He's got a lot to answer for, Howard Kennedy, or he did have. I was at PE college in Leeds with Howard, as was John Priestley, and Howard left a couple of years before we did and came down to Wycombe. And it was Howard that suggested we move south, try to get jobs down south, and that's how we ended up playing at Wycombe Wanderers.
And you were actually signed by Brian?
Yeah, Brian was, he was the outgoing manager. He just finished at the end of the 76 season, and I started playing in the 76-77 season. So I'm not sure who technically put pen to paper. I think it probably was Brian, yes. But I didn't actually play for Brian other than the Anglo-Italian tournament mid-season.
What are your memories of Brian, both briefly as a manager, but also during his time at the club that you sort of witnessed? Yeah,
well, it's difficult for me to comment on Brian as a manager because I only played 2 games under him as manager, and in the first one of those he hooked me off after 30 minutes. So at the time I probably wasn't that impressed, but I know he was and had been a fantastic manager for Wycombe Wanderers. I only got to know him in his role as chairman of the club, and obviously, he's an absolute legend of the club, and everyone connected with Wycombe Wanderers has got an awful lot to be thankful to Brian for.
And it must be nice for you to be arriving at that time with, as you say, John Priestley as well, and just sort of the two of you getting established in that team.
Yeah, it was. It was a big move for us both, because we're both northern lads, so, to move down south was quite a big move, and then obviously to take a step into, what was semi-professional football then, obviously, was a big move. But Wycombe Wanderers was then and still is a great football club, and so it was very easy to settle in. And, when I look back now on the teammates that I had when I first joined, it was brilliant. And obviously Howard was a big factor in that, because when you know somebody already, it does make it much easier to settle in. So it was, very fond memories. I also knew Derek Harris as well, who also came to Wycombe in the time that I was there.
Was it a bit frustrating in a way, though, because you couldn't play in your preferred position, could you, because of a certain Paul Birdseye?
Indeed. If I look back on my time at Wycombe, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I had a great time there, and I thought it was a fantastic club. But if I look back at my own performances, and, there would be an overall sense of frustration as well as enjoyment. And that's the main reason, because for the 5 or 6 seasons that I was there, I never played in what I thought to be my best position. My best position was right back. And of course, Paul was already there, and I wasn't going to oust Paul Birdseye. So they were looking for a left back, really. And so Ted Powell, who was the manager in my first year there, he converted me into a left back, and and I stayed there for virtually all my career. And I think I did okay. But if I was to rate myself as a player over that time, I would say I don't think the Wycombe fans saw anything more than sort of 80% of my best. Not in terms of effort, but in terms of ability. Mainly because I was playing out of position a lot.
Although, did you feel that was quite a good sign of your versatility, that you were able to switch to different defensive positions?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was, from that point of view, it was pleasing. And, as I say, I think I did okay. Playing on the left side, I didn't find easy at all, because I'm naturally right-footed. I also played at centre-back. I had the odd game in centre midfield, and I even actually had a couple of games in goals, which you may or may not be aware of. But it was nice to be versatile, but it would have been even better if I could have been playing in my own position. But hey-ho, that's the way it was.
And I guess the infamous slope must have had an impact on that as well.
It did, yeah. When I was on that bottom side, trying to get crosses to the far post with my left foot was a bit difficult. Hitting them down from the top side wasn't too bad, but knocking them uphill was a little bit difficult, yeah. It was definitely a factor, and it's something that, as a fullback, I had to learn very quickly.
And I guess as a defender, you wouldn't be expected to get too many goals, but I understand there are a couple that you're particularly proud of. Yeah. I mean, as a defender, your main job obviously is to keep the goals out. But I did get a couple. Probably the best one in terms of the importance of it was when we beat Worcester City in the 4th qualifying round of the FA Cup.
I think it was about November 1980, that season. And it was a replay at Lotus Park. I can't remember whether I was playing left back or centre back that day, but I know I went up for the corner and managed to get up in front of the keeper and nod one in, and it turned out to be the winning goal. So that was a good one.
And also, I guess, must be quite a disappointment in the end, because it must have felt like would have been quite a nice way to end your time at Wycombe. But getting to the FA Trophy semi-final against Altrincham is something that really stands out as well. Yeah,
that was a big disappointment. I mean, I think it's every footballer's dream to play at Wembley, and getting to within, it was a two-legged semi-final in the FA Trophy against Altrincham, and we had a good result in the away leg. We got a draw up there, and then to come back to Lotus Park, sadly we lost 3-0, I think it was. And unfortunately, probably as a team, it was one of our worst performances, I think. And we just didn't turn up on the day, so that was a huge disappointment, to miss out on a Wembley final. It would have been a dream come true.
And something which really stands out from speaking to ex-players is the kind of relationship and rapport that you have with your teammates. And you mentioned a couple of the names, but there must have been so many during that time that you got on so well with.
Oh yeah. I mean, the names roll off the tongue, really. I mean, John Maskell and Tony Horseman, two absolute legends at Wycombe, and they were coming to the end of their careers. So I think I only played one or maybe two seasons with both of them. And, our regular back four in my first couple of seasons was Paul Birdseye, Keith Mead, Alan Phillips, Bob Davies. They were great characters, great players. Midfield, I had Mickey Holyfield playing in front of me, and there wasn't a better midfield player in the Isthmian League, and not many better midfield players playing football than Mickey Holyfield and Howard Kennedy. And up front, you've got Bodger scoring goals. And also in my first season, we had Ian Pearson, who I know he was only there for a season, but I think he must have scored nearly 40 goals in that first season. He was a terrific player. Some really good people, and a lot of them consider friends, even though it's a long time ago since we played together.
No, absolutely. And how did you find combining work with playing as well?
It wasn't easy, I've got to say, and that was one of the reasons in the end that I decided to finish when I did, because it was becoming increasingly difficult to combine the demands of the work with playing. And I was always the sort of person who, whatever I was doing, I wanted to make sure I could give 100% to it. And if I couldn't give 100% to what I was doing, I wasn't happy in myself. And I was doing well in my career, but in doing well, the demands became more and more. So it did become more and more difficult. And, that was a factor in the fact that I did finish probably earlier than maybe I might have done or people expected me to do. But as it turns out, I pursued my career and did well in my career. So it was probably not a bad decision in the end.
So overall, how do you look back at your time at Wycombe?
A great deal of enjoyment, a great deal of pride, and a sense of frustration. But it's always lovely to look back on my time there, because, as I say, it was such a great football club. The players that were played with were fantastic. There was a really good camaraderie there. The supporters were superb. I can't speak highly enough of the support we got. They were always with you and behind you and supported you. And it's just so nice now that seeing how Wycombe have done since those days, to be able to say I used to play for Wycombe Wanderers. And, even so many years on now, and even living up here in Leeds in Yorkshire, if it happens to come up in conversation and say, I used to play for Wycombe Wanderers, I said, really? And so I take a great deal of pride in the fact that I managed to represent the club over a number of seasons.
And Preston, also a club close to your heart, you must have had really split loyalties in 94 at Wembley.
I certainly did. Yeah, that was... you could look at it as either a no-win situation or a no-lose situation for me, that one. Because whoever won, I was going to be happy for, and whoever lost, I was going to be unhappy for. So, yeah, I've been a Preston North End supporter all my life, and they've always been the team I've supported. So, Preston North End and Wycombe Wanderers are the two results that I always look out for first.
I was going to say, you must be very fond of seeing how well the team is doing now, especially under a former Preston player.
Indeed, yeah. It's just got an added attraction with Gareth being there as manager, and if you talk to any Preston North End supporters and you mention the name Gareth Ainsworth, he is still recognised as one of our best players. He's absolutely loved up here in Preston and at the football club for what he did as a player, and I think there have been a number of occasions when Preston have been looking for a new manager, and his name often gets linked with it, rightly or wrongly. But it's just an added factor in the connection between the two clubs.
Well, it's been a real pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
You're very welcome.
Very enjoyed catching up with Bob Davies, former teacher from Brentwood in Downley, and also Wycombe Wanderers defender as well. Speaking of defenders, we'll switch our attention now to Wycombe Wanderers women, who have been doing pretty well of late, both in the league and cup. January signing Gemma Dunn, who is also riding the crest of the current success as well in both the league and cup, as I say, who signed from Andover.
I was at Andover New Street Football Club, because that's where I come from. I had to move to Wycombe because I got a job at Bucks University, so trialled with a couple of teams around the area and just decided Wycombe was kind of the one for me.
So how have you found it so far, sort of the integration in the team and just sort of settling in?
It's been really easy, to be honest. It's a great group of girls. They're all really lovely. Coach has been really welcoming as well, which has kind of been the reason why I chose them.
And obviously your position as well, being a centre-back, that must be quite a sort of a responsibility and quite a thing to kind of get started with. But you've got a good record so far.
Yeah, it's quite nice to have, I think it's 3 games now and 3 wins. So it's always quite positive being a centre-back. But yeah, it's the players around you as well. They've been really helpful, obviously, getting used to how the team play and things like that. And I'm just learning more and more each game, really. So
what would you say have been your first impressions?
It's really enjoyable. Every session you kind of get something new, and quite full on. They do take things quite seriously, which is quite nice, and everything's quite a high intensity, which is good.
Do you notice yourself that there's been a real increase in interest in women's football generally?
Yeah, massively. Yeah, especially obviously since the win at the Euros, there's so much more, particularly in like the youth and grassroots. There's so many girls coming through now, which is really great to see. And people are starting to take it more seriously, which I think, it's been a long time coming.
No, definitely. And I think there's a real aspect, we were in the Eden today chatting to Jack Grimmer and Gareth McCleary, and they were just doing a thing like half-term hero, as it was called. But you must find as well that especially, young girls really look up to you and what you're doing, even at the level that you're playing.
Yeah, it's definitely quite nice. So I do a bit of coaching on the side as well. And I think it's just nice for them to have a female role model sometimes as opposed to a male, because obviously, as you say, they can start to look at you as a role model and start to aspire to be like you. Women do deserve a place in the sport, and it's really nice that is coming through now.
Does it feel like you've sort of joined at Wycombe at a really interesting time because, they've had a new management and coaching structure just for this recently and, just recently moved to Burnham and also got the training on a Tuesday and Thursday at that ground as well. It feels like, something really quite special is happening.
Yeah, it is really nice. Obviously, I wasn't here beforehand, so I can't really comment on that. But definitely the structure and setup that they seem to have, they really seem to have a good focus on the development of the players in the team and club as a general. So I am really looking forward to seeing how we can progress, through the coming seasons.
And have you set yourself sort of personal and indeed sort of team goals as well as to what you'd like to achieve in the remainder of the season? Because obviously there's not too many league games left, but you're doing well in the cup as well.
Yeah, I think our main focus will probably be on the league right now, just to make sure we secure those points. I think we've got 2 league games left, so, it'd be nice to get 6 points from those and just go as far as we can in the cup. So if we get a win at the weekend, that'd be great.
So what's impressed you most so far about the team? Because there feels a real feeling of togetherness and great character in the side as well to really battle back if they've gone behind in games.
Yeah, definitely. And just the desire to kind of, work for each other, not get frustrated at the little things. And it's just really supportive.
Great to chat to Gemma Dunn, who's obviously settling in very well with Wycombe Wanderers women. A reminder that the first are in League Cup quarter-final action away at Bournemouth this coming Sunday. You can find out more details about the other games with the reserves being at home at Burnham as well on their social media. This afternoon we were at the Eden Centre in town for their fantastic initiative, Half-Term Heroes. 2 Wycombe Wanderers players were in attendance. First, friend of the show, Jack Grimmer.
Oh, it's been amazing, mate, to be honest with you. The turnout was better than we all could have ever expected. I think it shows the club's going in the right direction. We've got people coming out and wanting to be a part of it, and honestly, as a player, it makes you feel quite overwhelmed seeing how many people have came. So honestly, thank you to everyone that came down. It was an amazing day, and I hope you enjoyed it.
And right backs can be heroes too.
They can indeed. I think Gary Neville once said, obviously no one grows up wanting to be a Gary Neville, but hopefully that changes. And everyone was so nice and so welcoming, and the little things that we can do to make their day goes a long way.
Because it's really nice, isn't it? Because people obviously are big fans of the club, big fans of the players, but you may have seen some people today who've not been to a game before and might come along on Saturday as a result.
Well, this is the thing. I was speaking to people today, and their first game is going to be against Exeter, or on Saturday, like you said, against Bolton, and that is, it's nice to sort of get that reach and get more fans through the door. Wycombe is growing as a club. It has grown as a club so much since I've been here already. And it's nice to get those fans, but it is also nice to speak to the season ticket holders, the people that are following us all along the country, and repay them with just more than 3 points. It's nice to actually be face to face with them and get the chance to speak to them.
I really feel that backing as well from supporters in person as well, and when you're on the pitch, obviously that they're kind of there cheering you on.
That's it. I was overwhelmed when I turned up, and you see the length of the queue and things, and it is nice to give back, like I said, in more ways than just on the pitch. It's nice to do these things, and you don't know how much, how long this can go for a kid if he meets you and then he goes up to play football. You don't know what impact you can have. So, anything that we can do to give back is an amazing thing. Yeah,
sure. Really nice to be doing it in such a rich vein of form for the team, 4 wins and going into the game on Saturday as well.
I'm not going to lie, it does help being here after 4 wins. It's some of the best form I think we've had since I've been at the club. It does help. You don't want to be doing these things probably having lost 3 on the bounce, but that's football, it's ups and downs, and I think it speaks volumes of our fans. Win, lose or draw, they'll be there for us. So it's like I said, it's great to give back.
And as a defender, do you sort of look forward to the challenge more of what's to come on Saturday, bearing in mind Bolton have scored a lot of goals of late?
Yeah, you're right. I kind of thought the same thing against Derby. They're probably one of the best front lines in the league, and that's who you want to be testing yourself again against. The clean sheets have been... We've managed to get a lot of clean sheets this season, but Saturday's the games that we need those clean sheets more than ever. Bolton are up there, and it's a great chance for us to sort of claw them back a little bit.
Pleasure to speak to Jack Grimmer, also very popular in the queue with both the youngsters and some of the parents as well, was Gareth McCleary.
It was really good, really enjoyed it. Lots of smiley faces on the kids and the parents too. Obviously, the amount of time that you have off with time off with over half term, it was brilliant to see all the kids and them really enjoying it. So yeah, it's a bit of time out of mine and Jack's schedule, but we were in today and we came in, and as long as everyone's happy, we're fine.
I'm sure you're much too modest to describe yourself as a hero, but it must be so nice for youngsters especially to sort of come and meet you, and who've been so impressed by the goals that you've scored or just what you do on the pitch.
Yeah, well, I was having this conversation actually a few months ago. Someone actually looking up to you and saying you're a hero of theirs is surreal. And yeah, there were so many kids today that said that I've been playing well, and it's just, yeah, if I can bring smiles on the kids' faces and the supporters' faces, that's the main thing that I do it for.
Does that make it also worthwhile, because that you come face to face with fans obviously at the ground as well, but just to know that they're sort of supporting you and really sort of cheering for what you're doing?
Yeah, 100%. I was a fan to it at one stage. I used to go to Oxford United games, and I still do support Arsenal, so I totally understand where they're coming from, and if you can put a smile on the fans' faces, that's the main thing.
And especially with yourself and the team in such good form at the moment, it must feel even better.
Yeah, we're in good form at the moment. We know every game in League One's tough, and we've got a really hard one on Saturday against Bolton. But yeah, we've been playing really well at the moment, and hopefully we can get the win.
Does it feel like things are really sort of clicking at the moment as compared to earlier in the season?
Early in the season, it may have just been the run of the green. We had a few injuries, and we've got a lot of important players back, and we're hitting form at the right time, I feel. But then come back to me in March, and then we'll see where we're at. We've got some tough games coming up, but I'm more than confident that we can pick up the wins that we need to get into those playoff places.
And especially Saturday, a big game with Bolton coming as well, and I guess many of the youngsters that you met today will be coming along hopefully to sort of support you as well. Yeah,
a lot did say that they were coming on Saturday, and they will be coming on the 4th of March as well, so as many as we can see there. We had a Children's Day earlier on in the season, and it was probably the best atmosphere I've seen this season, so as many kids as possible that can come and cheer us on, and as many supporters that can come and cheer us on, it definitely does help. So this is a sound out to everyone to come out and support us, and hopefully we can get the win for you.
A great opportunity for the whole family at Eden Shopping Centre today. A little earlier on as well, caught up with the manager on what's been a week of mixed emotions at the club.
It's tough, and in football you get this. We've had Brian Lee, who has had a fantastic long life and made a real mark at Wycombe Wanderers and football in general, not just Wycombe, but people have got to remember. But that was a really tough sort of phone call or text message I got on Sunday of Bryn, his son, because Brian had been a real big supporter of mine, and I think these things you got to put in perspective, and that's somebody's dad and somebody's granddad and great granddad even, and that's the key things for this. He was a great, fantastic football man and did a lot for Wycombe Wanderers, and will always be remembered for that. But at the end of it all, he's a family man, and family's everything. So he was, a real sort of pioneer in what he did here at Wycombe Wanderers, and we can't thank him enough for giving us the platform for this fantastic football club. And then moving on to Alfie, obviously, in no way as serious, as sad, but your career, to have to finish your career, it's a massive, massive moment in somebody's life. I'm so lucky that I've never had to have that moment. I'm still trying to jog around on a Sunday morning, and I get pains and aches, but I need football. I love football so much. So, for Alfie at 28, 29 years old to have to pack up because of his knee, I'm just glad he's had the moments he's had, and he's made the impact he's had, because he's had a super sort of quick rise to the top and really made his mark, especially at Wycombe. And for him to say to me that I love football again, Gaffer, because I came back to Wycombe, all the trials and tribulations of being injured and all the heartache he must have gone through. And believe me, I don't care what anyone earns, what everyone's worth, what everyone's stature is. Once you're told you can't really play football again, that's a big moment, And so Alfie falling back in love with the game because of Wycombe is testament to him, all the boys around, and I just feel for him, and hopefully he can stick around and enjoy what he said he wants to enjoy watching the boys again, enjoy getting involved with the boys, enjoy chatting to the boys on a daily basis or a weekly basis or whatever he wants to do. But that's down the line. At the moment, we just want to make sure that Alfie's okay, and he's setting his head with what he wants to do and how he's going to attack life now without turning out on a Saturday, So that's another big one. But I mentioned Alfie before the game actually at Accrington, and said to the boys, you got to keep hold of what you've got. You make every moment count, and so if anything, the boys were well aware at any moment things can be taken from you. So give your all, and Alfie certainly did in his career, and he'll be welcome here with his family any time. And obviously Brian's a big part of this place, but the clock keeps moving, time keeps going, and we've got Bolton now to look at Saturday, and that'll come around quick, and we've got to make sure that we're prepared and on it again, and keep this fantastic run going.
Obviously, it feels like a really good time to be going into these games with the 4 wins and not conceding too many goals either. And obviously, you come up against a team who've been scoring quite a lot of late and not letting many in themselves.
2 5-0s, yeah. We've got to look. I've got to watch these and find out a way how to beat Bolton. And when you're watching 10 goals go against the opposition and none against Bolton, it's going to be a tough ask. But again, I believe in my boys. I believe we've got enough in this building to make this top 6. And yeah, Bolton's going to be a big test for us on Saturday. But I'm sure Ian Evans thinking exactly the same thing about coming to Wycombe Wanderers.
And it must sort of please you so much that, I know you've said before, but you look at the league table and just the sort of the structure of the top 6 and the names there, and then next in the list is Wycombe Wanderers.
Yeah, we can't discount Shrewsbury Town, who made some brilliant signings at the start of the year, and I said they'll be there and thereabouts, definitely. But to have our name again in it all, I have a little chuckle to myself sometimes when people think we're a big club, and people actually, because they've only seen the last 5 years probably of Wycombe Wanderers history, go back a little bit further and you can find some chaotic moments. But there's no way we should be nestled in amongst your Derbies and your Ipswiches and your Barnses and Boltons. But we're around there, and it's brilliant to be around there. I'm really, really proud of what we achieved here, and like I said, I'll keep pushing and keep fighting and keep getting these boys out, believing they can win every game, because we can. We've got good players in this place, and obviously can't thank everyone who's walked through this door. The current people in charge and everyone who works for me. Just that it's an awesome place to be, and I got something really special when you got belief, you got players who want to run through brick walls for you, and as a manager, that is all you need. You don't need anything else.
We spoke to John Maskell this week, and he was saying that Brian Lee and yourself, they had their team playing in a very similar way. Does it really feel like you're sort of building on what's gone before and really sort of carrying the club forward?
It's nice because obviously we were billed as this direct long ball team for many a year with Aki and Fenrir in the team. I think one of my big strengths, Colin, is always adapting to the situation. I always say it to everybody. Say, what's your biggest strength? I'll say it's adaptation. I'll adapt during a game, before a game, for the next game. I'll adapt to whatever I think will win the game. My job is to win the game. My job is not play a style of football that everyone wants, which sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, sometimes it's in the middle. I have to win games. So I have to find out what it will take to win a game. And sometimes I've got a Ford Escort against a Ferrari. And in that race, I've got to somehow get that Ford Escort up and beating that Ferrari. And there's ways to do it. And you've got to make sure that we're competing at that top level, and I'll find a way to do it. But having said that, I couldn't do it without the boys and the staff around me. They're brilliant. And to be compared to someone like Brian Lee is very, very, a humble moment to me, because they say he was considered one of the best. And that's a very nice comment from John to say that.
And that's something that really stood out on Tuesday as well after the Accrington game, was that, the way you said that you had to change things in the second half and had the subs back after half time as well to kind of explain. And that must be so pleasing as well that the players can adapt in that way too.
Yeah, I didn't come out, if people will notice, I didn't come out for the second half until probably just about kick-off. I just was walking out the tunnel. And the reason for that is that once the 6 outfield subs came in, I wanted to explain to them what I was going to do after 10 minutes, because I really thought that, okay, we just had the better of the Spurs first half, but there was a couple of issues. I wanted to give it another 10 minutes to go and see if we could get another goal. And if we didn't, I was going to make us more secure, and this is how I was going to do it. And all the subs were going to play a part. So I showed the subs what they were going to do on the tactics board, and that was important, rather than going out and watching, the first 30 seconds. It was more important to get those messages in. And I'll have to say that they all made a huge impact when they came on, really pleased with them. And I thought we looked secure towards the end. Chris Farino coming back was a big positive, and Gareth McCleary and TJ coming on, Nick Freeman again. All these players who came on really making their part count, and that was important. But it shows what a squad game this is, and how important the whole team, the whole 18 is sometimes.
And I know many of the players just finally said that the visit of Derby was one of the best atmospheres of the season. I think this coming Saturday could equal, if not top that, with another big club coming to Adams Park.
It will, if we can get enough Wycombe fans down there, because we keep saying it, can you come down and support the boys? Because I remember Bolton coming here 2 or 3 years ago when they were in absolute peril, and they were looking at administration down the barrel of a gun, and I think they had a great respect for Wycombe that day of how we empathise with them, really, because we've been in similar situations, and we made the day really special for them. Even though I think we beat them on the first game of the season, it was a moment where 2 clubs came together and to fight against this finance thing in football that is out of control sometimes. So I'm expecting nice atmosphere, good atmosphere, great game of football, and may the best team win.
Lots to look forward to on Saturday. Obviously, if you have the chance to get to Adams Park, do go along and back the Blues. If you can't get to the game for whatever reason, you'll hear live commentary here on Wycombe Sound from 3, match build up from 2. Phil and another co-commentator. I think there's yet to be, it's TBD, I think, but it'll definitely be someone. Bring you all that build up from the car park from 12 o'clock with Rob and the team as well. Hope you've enjoyed the Wycombe Wanderers Show for this week. It's been brilliant to bring you the tribute to Brian Lee from 2 players who played under him, and to hear from the manager as well. Have a fantastic week, and we'll be back at the same time next Thursday from 7, the Wycombe Wanderers Show here on Wycombe Sound.